Welcome everyone. This episode will cover the life of Hazrate Baha'u'llah, the prophet of the Baha'i faith. During the end of the presentation, I will be providing information on additional resources you can consult for further review and contemplation. The episode will conclude with a beautiful prayer written by Hazrate Baha'u'llah. In Hazrate Shoghi Effendi's God Passes By, Shoghi Effendi, Baha'u'llah's great-grandson, describes Baha'u'llah as preeminent in holiness, awesome in the majesty of his strength and power, unapproachable in the transcendent brightness of his glory. Baha'u'llah, whose name is Mirza Hussein Ali, was born in Tehran on November 12, 1817, into a noble family. Baha'u'llah exhibited remarkable wisdom and understanding from an early age. Mirza Abbas Nuri, his father, had been a nobleman. Baha'u'llah, who was uninterested and indifferent to earning a livelihood as a powerful government figure, rather dedicated his strength to helping the poor and needy. Baha'u'llah writes, "I have never aspired after worldly leadership. My sole purpose hath been to hand down unto men that which I was bidden to deliver by God." When Baha'u'llah first encountered the message revealed by Hazrate Bab, herald of the Baha'i faith, whose name was Sayyid Ali Muhammad, who prepared humankind for the coming of He whom God shall make manifest, a new messenger of God, Baha'u'llah committedly and sincerely affirmed his belief in it, devoting his entire strength and power into advocating and disseminating it, remarkably without ever having met the Bab in person. In 1848, the Bab's followers, including Baha'u'llah, gathered in a village in the Persian city of Badasht. Baha'u'llah played an important role in the Badasht conference. From this period, Mirza Hussein Ali was referred to as Baha'u'llah, meaning glory of God in Arabic. Gradually, as the Bab attracted an increasingly greater number of followers with his message, the number of opponents also increased. Thousands of Babis were punished, tortured in the most cruel manner, many of them facing execution. On the sorrowful day of July 9, 1850, the Bab was publicly executed in the city of Shiraz. Baha'u'llah now became a guiding light to the remaining Babis. In the year 1852, Baha'u'llah was wrongfully accused and arrested by a government, who felt increasingly threatened by the growth of a new divine revelation from God. The officials who were tasked with leading him through crowded streets to a prison called the Siyah-Chal, or Black Pit, whilst barefoot and chained, were amazed by Baha'u'llah's calm, composed nature. The prisoners sent to the Siyah-Chal were forced to endure the agonizing pain and weight of heavy chains amidst the cold and sanitary air. For the remainder of his life, Baha'u'llah carried the marks of the unbearable chains. In this very prison, Baha'u'llah underwent a divine encounter with God, experiencing divine revelation. He was the chosen one from God. Baha'u'llah himself revealed, "During the days I lay in the prison of Tehran, though the galling weight of the chains and the stench-filled air allowed me but little sleep, still in those infrequent moments of slumber I felt as if something flowed from the crown of my head over my breast, even as the mighty torrent that precipitated itself upon the earth from the summit of a lofty mountain. At such moments my tongue recited what no man could bear to hear." Baha'u'llah's suffering lasted for a duration of 4 months. Now in poor health and extremely fatigued, he was finally set free. However, he and his family had been banished from his home country of Iran forever. First, Baha'u'llah and his family were exiled to Baghdad, where they stayed from 1853 to 1863. The remainder of the Bab's followers sought spiritual and moral support and assistance from Baha'u'llah, whose noble station, divine greatness, knowledgeable words, and compassionate nature, shown to all, uplifted and revitalized the once oppressed community, and confirmed his divine station. Mirza Yahya, Baha'u'llah's half-brother, became more and more envious of Baha'u'llah's lofty station, and strived several times to subjugate Baha'u'llah and dissuade his companions from turning to him. Baha'u'llah, seeking to flee from the resulting tension and strife, dwelled in the mountains of Kurdistan for 2 years, meditating upon God's divine will for him. This 2-year period is similar to Moses's, Christ's, and Muhammad's retreats to remote lands. Even in Kurdistan, Baha'u'llah's magnificence permeated the land. Stories recounted by locals about a figure containing remarkable knowledge and understanding were heard all the way in Baghdad. When they reached the Bab's followers, they immediately recognized the figure to be Baha'u'llah. Therefore, they pleaded for Baha'u'llah's return. In Baghdad, Baha'u'llah contributed to the growth and development of the community. He became increasingly prominent throughout the land. During this period, Baha'u'llah wrote the Hidden Words, the Seven Valleys, and the Book of Certitude, Kitab-i-Iqan, which were translated at a later time by Hazrate Shoghi Effendi, Baha'u'llah's great-grandson, into English. As a result of Baha'u'llah's increasing prominence, feelings of resentment also grew among some clergy, leading to the exile of Baha'u'llah and his family to Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul. Before departing from Baghdad, Baha'u'llah stayed in the Garden of Rizwan, located along the banks of the Tigris River, in April 1863 for a duration of 12 days. During this period, which became known as the Festival of Rizwan, Baha'u'llah declared that he was the Promised One, the Messenger of God, which had been foretold by the Bab and presented in various holy scriptures belonging to all of God's previous dispensations. The Baha'i faith began in April 1863. Baha'u'llah and his family set out on a 3-month-long journey from Baghdad to Istanbul, where they stayed for only 4 months before being exiled further to Adrianople, modern-day Edirne, Turkey. Their exhausting and arduous journey from Istanbul, taking place in the bitterly cold winter temperatures, led them to Edirne, which Baha'u'llah termed the remote prison. Yet, despite the hostile conditions, Baha'u'llah unceasingly composed divine verses which were heard in lands as far as India and Egypt. Trials and difficulties continued to be inflicted upon Baha'u'llah. A dreadful attempt by an envious Mirza Yahya to poison Baha'u'llah resulted in a hand tremor which would remain with Baha'u'llah for the remainder of his life. During Baha'u'llah's 5-year stay in Edirne, Baha'u'llah continued to compose numerous tablets, such as the Tablet of Ahmad. Locals and religious clerics in Edirne recognized and were enthralled by Baha'u'llah's divine, noble character. An increasing number of people came to admire and love Baha'u'llah. In September 1867, he began writing and addressing letters to world leaders, declaring his station as the messenger of God and revealing the presence of a new spiritual stage. He foretold the coming of devastating world occurrences that would distress the political and social spheres, therefore calling upon them to establish peace and cease war by acting with integrity and fairness. Furthermore, he advised them to gather together as a unified assembly. The world leaders of the time to whom the letters were addressed included Sultan Abdulaziz of the Ottoman Empire, Francis Joseph, Emperor of Austria and King of Hungary, Nasruddin Shah of Persia, Pope Pius IX of the Roman Catholic Church, and Queen Victoria of the British Empire. The leaders in general, however, failed to reflect upon the devastating after-effects that would result from their actions. The Ottoman government, once again feeling threatened by the divine messages, exiled Baha'u'llah and his family to the prison city of Akka, or Acre, Israel, on August 31st, 1868. He would remain in Akka until the end of his life in 1892. The moral character of Baha'u'llah and that of his family, especially Hazrate Abdul'Baha, Baha'u'llah's eldest son, and companions, inspired and altered the once biased attitudes of community officials and residents. Admiration was shown toward Baha'u'llah amongst the community, including its leaders. In 1873, Baha'u'llah completed the Kitab-i-Aqdas, the Most Holy Book, also called the Book of Laws. During the late 1870s, officials permitted Baha'u'llah to move outside of the prison city and enabled his followers to visit him. Professor Edward Granville Brown of Cambridge University visited Baha'u'llah at his residence in the mansion of Bahji in 1890. He noted, "The face of him on whom I gazed I can never forget, though I cannot describe it. Those piercing eyes seemed to read one's very soul. Power and authority sat on that ample brow. No need to ask in whose presence I stood, as I bowed myself before one who was the object of a devotion and love which kings might envy and emperors sigh for in vain." On May 29, 1892, Baha'u'llah passed away. In his will, he chose Abdul'Baha to be his successor. Abdul'Baha was the perfect exemplar of the faith and dedicated his life to furthering the cause of Baha'u'llah. It is the first time in religious history whereby a prophet had chosen a successor in writing. The covenant of Baha'u'llah permits unification amongst the Baha'i community. Thank you all for watching. I will leave you now with a beautiful prayer written by Hazrate Baha'u'llah and chanted in Persian. Take care, everyone. Additional resources that provide in-depth information on Baha'u'llah's life include the following.
Ilahi, Ilahi, in abd ra az shar nafs va hawa hifz farma و به نور بر و تقوا مزین دار ای مالک من مملوک تو را ذکر می نماید و لازال بصرش منتظر عنایات لانهایه تو بوده است. پس باز کن باب رحمتت را و قسمتی عطا فرما این عبد متمسکت را از یک کلمه علیا عالم وجود را موجود فرمودی و به انواع مائده و نعمت و آلاء لا تحصی مزین داشتی تویی بخشنده و توانا لا اله الا انت العلی الابها